Well, I'll just open up. I will, you know, a year ago, I think it was a year ago this week, we were being told we're not going to the NCAAs, which was an interesting week for our team. And then it went down into shutdown. And I remember during the summer being with my team doctor, Dr. Tarbucks, and walking, and we just talked the entire day. I think we walked 22 miles and just thinking about what we can do with this team. It's going to be a young group coming in, a great recruiting class, and what we can accomplish when this does eventually open. And here we are in March now, and we have 10 qualifiers. We have 8 seeds in the top 10, and 5 guys have never been in the building at a national tournament. So we're bringing a very young team in there, but it's exciting for where this program is at and how they competed the entire year. When I say this year, it started with finally getting back in the room in September and then practicing and then getting out back in competition in January to here we are winning a 10th straight conference title and going into the nationals with an opportunity to bring some hardware home as individuals and a team. So looking forward to this next week, a week from now, from being in St. Louis.
Andrew.
Hey, Coach. What are your expectations for you guys going into St. Louis? You get the home crowd. It won't be very much, but it'll at least hopefully be something for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be much of a crowd because it's just really four qualifier. But I don't think that's going to matter all season long. We've been wrestling before small crowds just because of, COVID, that I think it's more of just getting out there and competing at a high level. And our team's done that every week. Every week we've gone to, one weekend it was going up to the Dakotas and wrestling Oregon State and North Dakota State South, and we handled it great. And then we go to Iowa State and all those wrestling Iowa State and Northern Iowa and handled it great. And I just every weekend after week, then with Wyoming and Central here, and both those teams ended up being really good teams. And we, wrestled well that day. Every weekend I kept waiting for this lapse to happen. Maybe we're going to have to get, not going to have a good weekend. And every weekend this team just got excited about competing. We're grateful for it and went out there and kicked some ass, which was fun. It's fun to be a coach where you have a team that embraces competition.
Ben.
Brian, you referenced the depth that you have, and even if it's not your most experienced group, it is really deep. And how much do you think that depth can help you get into the mix for a team trophy?
Oh, without a doubt, it's unbelievable, because when you look at our room of 30-something guys, and the great example is Connor Brown was ranked, our 25-pounder was ranked somewhere 15 to 18 in the country, gets hurt the day before we leave for New Jersey, breaks his leg, and we throw in Noah. And Noah goes out there and takes second in the conference, qualifies the spot, and he's the 18th ranked guy in the country right now, 18th seed. So our room is, that competition that they're getting day in and day out. And it's just, what's the expression? Iron sharpens iron. Our room is that it is a battle. We have to actually scale it back on days where they'll beat up on each other and we'll have injuries. So yes, the depth in our room will make a difference at this national tournament for shape, because we've had it all year, and just knowing with confidence that my room is tough when they step out there.
Colin.
Hey, Coach Smith, I know you have talked about the youth you have on this team. How much did those older guys like Alan, like Brock, and like Jarrett kind of help set the tone and help younger guys understand what conferences was going to be like and what the national tournament's going to be like?
Yeah, it started when they kind of collectively got in groups during the summer and would meet, and a lot of the freshmen were going into those groups and there were no coaches on these groups. They were just hanging out in these groups, talking about books they were reading and what they were doing workout wise, away from each other and things like that. And the older guys were running those, and how we can do, developing our mindset, which is an important thing. We couldn't do much with our bodies, but developing our mindset, our mind gym, as we would call it, and developing that gym in your mind, and how you're going to, before competition, during competition, what your thoughts are and controlling them. And the older guys did an amazing job with that. And then, of course, getting in the room and helping them train and seeing how it's going to be and explaining it to them. That's all they really had was each other, because they weren't able to go on campus much. They weren't able in the athletic cafeteria this year. Those freshmen were basically in a practice room and in their apartment, and that's it the entire season. The entire school year up to this point is all they've had. So it's, having great leadership, and I'm very fortunate in this program with Brock Maulers and Jarrett's, the guys in Allen Hart's. They're doing an amazing job of that.
Lee.
Hey, Coach Smith. Within the wrestling community, there's a big stigma about, specifically during the national championships, that championships and hardware are won on the backside. So like losses that may occur early, but then fighting back to get that All-American status. Is there a specific message that you've driven home to your team to kind of ensure that like you guys will be bringing something back to Columbia?
It's a lot easier to win it on the front side, though. The more wins you get on the front side, it's double the points. So getting when you look at the seeds we have, we got to punch it through and get to those quarters and semis and pull those upsets and make it happen. And that's where you get the good big points. And the other thing that's important, that if you do go to the backside, is your mindset that it's in those backside matches. Some people are just, don't want to be there. And our team has to want to be there. It's a team thing and an individual thing. And you see a lot of guys, we see guys roll over in the backside that you can score a lot of bonus points. And even on the front side, that opening round is such an important round that if you can put 6 to 8 bonus points up, 6 to 8 points is a huge amount of points. That if we can do that, the year we took third in the country, we scored 25.5 bonus points. So that first round, if we can make a big jump and go out there and pick up some bonus points, which is pins and tech falls and major decisions, that can separate you from teams that are getting the same amount of wins from you, but the bonus points make a difference.
Matt.
Brian, now that we have seen the draw, do you have any thoughts about seeding and bracketing and the runs that some of your wrestlers may have in St. Louis?
We break down the film. We look, everybody always, is that a good draw? Bad? I said, there is no such thing. You got to go beat people. And so I remember one year sitting and the draws came out, and I remember looking at it and I'm like, man, Mark Ellis has the toughest draw I've ever seen. And he won the national title. So he had a tough draw. So it doesn't matter. You still have to go beat people. And he did. And I remember a couple of years, a couple of our guys weren't even seeded back in the days when they only seeded to 12. And they came out of it and they were placing. So you have to have the approach that, and it's an old cliche, but you got to look at your first opponent and you got to not even worry about that opponent, but just go out there and wrestle and what you've done the entire season. And that's probably my job, is getting them through the stress of the first round, because it's that first round where they've been there since Monday. They don't wrestle till Thursday. We're having to test every day and go through craziness. Half the team can only come in the building. The other half come later. It's not the norm, but we have to treat it like the norm and say, we're going to step in a circle and it's something you've been doing your entire life, and go wrestle and have some fun. And if they do, we're going to have a great weekend, which I expected.
Anthony.
Hey, Coach, you kind of talked about him a little bit earlier, but I just kind of wanted to touch a little bit about Noah Certain. How did you coach him being thrown in, like you said, at kind of the last minute? And how did he react to that? How did you respond to that? And how did you kind of navigate that situation?
Well, it was right before the practice, the day before we left for New Jersey. So the first thing I asked him is, your weight good? And I think he lied to me, but he still made weight. But, he's a kid that was a big recruit. He's a kid that in the wrestle off in the black and gold meet, when you look at the score, with him and Connor Brown, it was a 2-1 match. It was a brawl. And you look at some of the wins he had during the year. He went down to the Oklahoma State tournament and knocked off a top 20 kid from Oklahoma State. So fortunately, we had a schedule where all our guys were getting matches. So when I threw him in there, a lot of teams didn't get to wrestle all those extra matches. We did. He was prepared. He had 8 to 10 matches already. He knew he had been in the competition. He knows his room is tough as nails with Dak Punky and Connor Brown, who he was competing with every week. That we just looked at it, and I saw a seed, and I knew he was going to have a tough kid in the second round, a kid that would have been ranked top 10 in the country from Lock Haven, who was 30-5 the year before, but they just hadn't competed all year. And he went out and stuck the kid, and I just said, he's ready. And he has that ability. He was a cadet national champ coming out of high school, an Illinois state champ. He was a big recruit for us. So for me, it was no surprise. He just he knew. And I preach this all season, because I do it every year, but especially in a COVID year, you have to talk to kids about being prepared to be the next man up. And, there was a year past where a guy moved up in a weight class, and John Ernest, he filled in, and wins the conference and later on becomes an All-American. Noah Certain was that guy this year. So he, unfortunately, it happened because of an injury, but he stepped in and has an opportunity to be an All-American as a freshman.
Ben.
Did you say for me to go?
Yeah, you're good.
Sorry. Brian, it has been 4 years since the last national champion. Is there pressure in the room, knowing the history and the expectation? And you know, the mind immediately goes to Brock being seated as high as he is and being a Columbia kid who grew up with that history and tradition.
That's the first I've thought about. It's been 4 years, Ben. So you brought it up. I didn't know that. So now I have the pressure. It's your fault.
Sorry.
No, I mean, technically it's only 3 because we didn't get to wrestle last year. So we didn't have that opportunity to win it last year. Nobody did. But no, we see those pictures. You've been in our room and you see the pictures of the national champions. We need more on there. You know, we want to have another picture. Drake's getting lonely over there. So we need to have another picture. But that's something I know Brock Mahler, especially, he got it taken away from him last year, that he has been so focused, so precision, just everything he's done in the last month and a half. It's been unbelievable. Just seeing the way he's training and the extra things he's been doing, and just how the little details that he's focused in on. And this is everybody, but Brock especially, because he was right in there last year to win it and got it taken. So I know he's going to make the most of his opportunity this year.
Andrew.
Coach, what defines success for you at the NCAA championships? You come home on the bus and what do you guys have? What have you guys done that'll make you feel successful?
You know, it's interesting because I remember one year we took like 5th in the country. We had won another conference title. We had 3 guys in the finals, and I was getting texts, man, it's just too bad. That was disappointing, this and that. And I'm like, man, if I was any other sport at Mizzou, there'd be a ticker tape parade right now. If we had a national champ, 5 All-Americans, 5th in the country, conference champs. And but it was the expectation of this program. I'm not going to lie. Our fan base, they want a national title, and I want it, and our kids want it. So going in there, we want to win it. And I know it's going to be difficult when you look at the seeds and things. You know, if you're looking at on paper, Iowa's a definitely big favorite, and everybody knows that. But you can't worry about that. You got to worry about your matches. And the success that I look at is that my kids go out and it's an expression I leave them with all the time. Leave it on the mat. If you leave it on the mat and give me everything you can, wherever the match ends and you've done that, then you've given me everything. And that's all you can ask out of a kid. And there's going to be tough calls. There's going to be tough matches. But if they go out and compete at a high level, good things are going to happen. And we've seen that. And they know that if the consistency's there, good things are going to happen. They're going to give themselves a chance to be All-Americans, give them a chance to be a national champ, and give ourselves a chance to bring home a team trophy.
Lee.
So, Coach, you kind of talked about depth a little bit earlier. Considering that you do have 10 that are going to the championships, you have a bunch that are kind of newer to the scene. Who are some wrestlers that you're expecting to kind of have, like, maybe not necessarily a breakout performance, but perform pretty well?
All 10. All 10. Man, that's what we expect. They're wearing the black and gold. They have a lot of pride throwing that on. You're in St. Louis. We always perform well. I think we've had a couple national champs crowned in St. Louis, Drake Hottesholt and Jaden Cox. We've had some of our best tournaments there with the 3 guys making the national finals the one year. It's just we feel like it's our place to go and wrestle well, that it's exciting for us, that everybody's going out there. We've seen great competition. I mean, I look at Iowa State was 3rd or 4th in the Big 12s, and Wyoming was right up there in the Big 12s. We've seen some tough teams this year, and that we know. We haven't seen the Big 10, but it's just going to be some guys that wrestle very similar, that are physical, but we're ready for it. My expectation of all 10 of them, you look at the seeds, our lowest seed is Noah Certain, who just hasn't had the opportunity to be in the lineup. He got in the lineup the week before, he'd be a higher seed. So my expectation is for all of them to get on the podium. I want some national champs in there, and I want them to do great. So I would never pick a few of them out. Obviously, Brock Mahler's the highest seed and has been there and been at the highest level. He's got the best opportunity to win the nationals, but all of them do, because you're all starting in a tournament where anything can happen.
Anthony.
Now, Coach, so this season has obviously been one that's been pretty full of success. Obviously, MAC champions again with a record number of points, undefeated, and then you also hit 300 dual wins for your personal career. Is there anything from the season that just kind of sticks out to you as just in particularly a great success?
I would say just how my team has not flinched. When you think of somebody throwing a punch at you and you sometimes flinch, they haven't. We've been hit with a lot of punches this year too. When you start with the cancellation of the NCAAs and our guys started, there were stories of guys running marathons and guys starting to train. They built a gym in their backyard off of Paris Road. I walked down there with Tarbucks that day and I see all these weights and things. And I'm like, man, these guys just find a way. And then they started doing things together. And then next thing you know, we got back in the weight room in the summer. They never flinched. When you see what happened, I mean, it was really scary when you heard the screams of our 25-pounder when he broke his leg. And it's right before our last practice. And you think, oh man, how's this going to affect our team? Everybody was, giving their condolences to Connor as he's being carted off. But then of course the next guy up, and he goes in there and he freaking lights it up in his first match and next match. And the team's realizing, next thing I know, we won like 36 out of 40 something matches, and the guys are wrestling out of their mind and they didn't let it bother them. And so I think that's what I'm really proud of the program. Just every little thing. Even my coaches, they get so frustrated because we can't bring damn recruits on the campus because of the NCAA. And we're like, yet I know there were recruits coming and paying for tickets to come watch us compete. So I know there's a way to find a way and make things happen. And that's what our program's about, that we may not be people always say, oh, you're not in the best conference, yet we're always ranked in the top 10. You don't have this or that, but we find ways to be, and find ways to win. We find ways to be exceptional. And that's what our program's about. Anything else, guys? Appreciate it. So you guys want some of the other guys on here?